What is up, everyone? Today we're going to talk quickly about two new rumored cameras by Canon, the R1 and the R7. So let's get into it. What is up, everyone? My name is James and this is the Engineering Filmmaker, where we talk about photo, video, travel, and tech. If these are topics you're interested in, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. Thank you. So, two new cameras rumored from Canon towards the end of 2021-ish, maybe. The first one is the R1, which would be similar to the 1DX series, and the R7, which is meant to be something like the 7D series, not the 70D, 7D series. So let's talk a little bit about them. The R1 is rumored to have an 85 megapixel sensor. That's huge. The R5 I thought was already huge because it does 8K and all that stuff. We're talking like double the R5. So expect some major overheating issues. Jokes aside, it might. I would imagine this is going to be somewhat of a hybrid camera from the specs I'm seeing, so don't expect any fans or anything. Expect it to be a sealed body, just like the R5. We're looking at 20 FPS in 85 megapixel mode when you're shooting photo. That's pretty fast, but you can get even higher in 21 megapixel mode at 40 FPS. That's pretty fast for taking some photos. Like, imagine that. So let's also talk about the global shutter. So 85 megapixel global shutter in a mirrorless camera, which is a huge benefit. So look forward to having a global shutter in a mirrorless camera. Normally I see that, or mostly see that, in cinema cameras, but I actually am not quite sure if they put it in cameras for photo purposes. I don't know that much about global shutter. I just know how it works and the benefits of it. We're looking at a quad pixel autofocus. Most of the Canons you're used to have dual pixel autofocus. This one has quad pixel autofocus. So, I mean, the R5's autofocus is already like, you can't get better than that. And then they do this. So expect some really good autofocus in video and photo. The next major thing is the ISO. It goes from 160, which is weird because usually it starts at 100, all the way up to 1,638,400. So we can definitely expect some major improvements in the low light category of the Canon R1. The other non so major thing is 15.5 dynamic range stops. That's not really crazy, but it is nice to have. It still is going to have 5-axis IBIS and body stabilization, up to 9 stops. That's nothing really that new. It's going to have an OLED touchscreen that looks pretty impressive, 120 Hertz, some other cool things, but it's going to be a very nice looking screen. The electronic viewfinder is going to be improved and pretty nice. We're looking at 120 Hertz, almost 10 megapixels, so that's probably going to look a lot nicer than ones you're used to seeing. And then the big ticket item, $8,500. Now with the 1DX series, I think the most recent one was $6,500. An extra $2,000, I'm not quite sure is that worth it. However, with the global shutter and a few other things, maybe. But for $8,500, I probably would end up buying a cinema camera. But in that range, I don't know if there's any that come with a global shutter. So it's kind of win-lose. If it had an internal fan, maybe, because it won't overheat, but who knows? We'll have to see when the time comes, but that's quite a large chunk of change if you're doing mostly video. If you are a photographer, this is a solid sports camera or all-around camera. So lastly, I'm gonna quickly brief over the R7. I'm not gonna go over any of the major specs. I think it was around 35 megapixels. It looks very similar to the R6, 4K 60, 1080 120. It didn't look too impressive or crazy or something that was like super new. But I guess it would probably be cheaper than this R6 because it usually goes 5D, 6D, 7D, and then you got into the 70Ds, 80Ds, you know, the other models. So you might be able to get a really nice camera for photo and or video for a cheaper cost. I mean, the R6 was around 2,600, so the R7 may be around $2,000. As we get more information towards the end of the year or the middle of the year, I will try to make an updated video if there's major news on the news front. But that's really it for this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.